Hey everybody, how's it going? I believe this is part 5 of Unit In Depth, and we're talking about the Callidus Temple Assassin. So, the Callidus Temple Assassin is the one that infiltrates the enemy ranks with the polymorphine drug that allows them to have shape-changing abilities to take the form of, females or males, old or young, of the human race, and very easily, and with some minor alterations and with surgical implants, they can take the shape of orcs or gene stealers and Eldar. Essentially, they're the ones who can they assume the shape of the enemy to destroy the enemy from within. Essentially, get close to the enemy commander, influence them, so they can make tactically wrong decisions that benefits the Imperium, and then assassinate him once he gets close to them. So they're pretty cool. They're the most expensive assassin at 120 points. So, let's start with their special rules. Jump back. What jump back lets you do is at the start of any assault phase, be it yours or your opponent's, you can attempt to disengage from combat. Roll a d6. On a roll of a 1, she fails to disengage and must fight on normally. On a roll of 2 or more, she moves that many inches away from the enemy. This cannot be used to move into contact with a different enemy model. So if this leaves the enemy unit unengaged, they may make a consolidation move at the end of the assault phase. What this also does with the FAQ is, if you jump back on your assault phase, you can then charge with her again. If you jump back in the opponent's assault phase, they are free to charge wherever they want, including the Callidus Assassin. So I would suggest doing it in your assault phase just to get the charge bonus. Or if you really want to get out of there and hope they don't charge you again, you can do it during your enemy's phase. She also has a word in your ear. The player of the Callidus Assassin can move one enemy unit up to 6 inches after both sides have deployed, but before the first turn starts. The unit's new position must be within the normal deployment zone, and the owning player may choose if facing the unit after it has been moved. Facing matters for vehicles and walkers. Other than that, not so much. This is a decent ability. It can be used pretty well. Move heavy weapons away, block heavy weapons line of sight better than move behind stuff. Move something out into the open. You get the idea. That's always handy. How effective it is, I don't really know in 5th edition, but other than that, it's a pretty cool ability. So, other than that, those were special rules, and then she has a bunch of war gear stuff. And her first war gear is the Satan Phase Sword, however you want to pronounce it. It's a phase sword, can only be used in close combat, and no saves are allowed against hits from the phase sword, not even invulnerable ones. That's the thing on her wrist above her head. So it ignores all saves, even invulnerable saves, so she has a better close combat weapon than the Eversor, because she's meant to pretty much decapitate the HQ, and that's pretty much it. But, the Eversor is better than the Assault phase because of all the extra attacks he gets and the ability to charge 12 inches. Anyway, also remember, Satan Phase Sword gets absorbed by Satan. It's in the Satan special role of Necron, so don't use it against Necron Satans. You'll just be disarmed, then you won't have it at all. She's the only unit still around to have a Phase Sword that I know of. The only one I know of is in Cypher, an old special character of Chaos, Space Marines, who has a Satan Phase knife. She has the Neural Shredder. Neural Shredder uses a flame template and is fired just like a flame weapon. That's that thing she's holding in her other hand, looks like the gun. You don't roll to wound as normal. You roll to wound as follows in the description. And pretty much, the Neural Shredder has a strength of 8. But rather than using the target's toughness value, their leadership is used. Other than this, the wound chart is used as normal. For example, leadership 9 is wound on a 5+. A roll of 1 always fails to inflict a wound. Against vehicles, roll D3 on the glancing hits table, as the crew's brains are partially protected by vehicle's armor. The Neural Shredder has the following profile as template, strength X, AP 1, assault 1. Before we get into that, FAQ wise, there is no glancing hits table, so it gets a -3, I believe. Maybe 4, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's a -3 on the vehicle charts. So it hits them at -3, so you can't really do anything except maybe destroy a vehicle weapon. Anyway, this is not really what its strength is about. Its strength is about its template weapon being AP1. It's an AP1 template weapon, which is huge. Ignores cover and it's AP1. So, the drawback is it's strength 8 against leadership. And most leadership is 7 or 8. I don't exactly know how it works with mixed leadership. Like if a squad has a veteran sergeant and leadership 9, and the rest is 8. I don't know how that works exactly. I don't know if he uses majority leadership or whatnot, or the highest. I also don't know how it works against Orc Boys mobs, because they have a base leadership value, but then for making tests, they can use their squad size in place of their leadership for leadership up to 10, and after 10 they're fearless. But so you can never have a leadership higher than 10 anyway. But I don't know for this weapon if she uses their base leadership or their mob rule. I would rule it as base standard leadership, because the mob rule is more just, you know, not being afraid because there's more boys, that you have more boys behind you and in front of you. But that's just me. I don't know how it works normally, but that's how I'd rule it. You use the orcs base leadership, not the mob rule leadership. So that's it. So that's that. I don't know how, like I said, I don't know how it works with that 100%. That's how I would do it, and I don't know about models with different leadership values in one unit. But moving on, she has polymorphine. Callidus Assassin is always placed in reserve. Even in missions which do not normally use reserve roles, but it doesn't really happen anymore. When she becomes available, she may be placed anywhere in the battlefield and can move and fight normally in the turn she arrives. That's pretty sweet. She doesn't need to infiltrate because she has this rule. You can place her anywhere. You can't put her more than an inch closer to an enemy model, but you can essentially put her right behind the enemy HQ, right behind the Imperial Guard command squad, right behind the captain if he's by himself, right behind the war boss if he's by himself. You get the point. Right behind the Farseer, right behind the Necron Lord if he's by himself, or right behind, or wherever you want them. Right behind or next to a tightly packed unit, because for some reason, because they disembarked after moving or whatever, and then she can fight as normal. And then she's got the poison blades as well. If the Callidus Assassin is still in base contact with an enemy model at the end of the assault phase after all combats have been resolved, she may make an extra attack with the poison blades. This attack always wounds in a 4+ and normal armor saves are allowed, so you get one extra attack after everything's all said and done. Kind of insult to injury. Which is pretty cool. So she's the second most competent in close combat because of the ignoring attacks and the jump back, ignoring saves completely because of her off phase sword and jumping back and whatnot. As far as using the Callidus Assassin, obviously either take out HQs if you can, or put her somewhere where Neural Shredder would come into good use. Like against a tightly packed infantry squad of the Imperial Guard, for example. Leadership 7 or 8 there. You're winning on 3s or 4s, AP1. If you, depending on how they're packed and cover, or wherever, you can place her wherever you want her to get the maximum amount of people under the template. You can't measure until the shooting phase, obviously, but, you know, put her right behind a conga line, for example, instead of the side of it. Or somewhere where she can just burn, or use the Neural Shredder to its greatest effectiveness. That right there will help. If you're not worried about that, you can put her right behind an HQ model or the enemy command squad. Leadership's going to be a little higher, whatever. You have the chance to wound them with the AP1 Flamer. If not, you can then assault that regimental command squad or the company command squad or whatever. She is more of a headhunter, kind of like the Vindicare, but she does it through the assault phase. Which is great because if you have her and your opponent knows what you can do, he can assume where you're going to drop her, but he can never really know where you're going to place the Callidus Assassin because you get to place it anywhere you want on the board. So that's pretty cool. Don't really expect her to survive that much. She's got really cool weapons and abilities, but once she either kills or decapitates the enemy or dies trying, she's going to be potentially pretty exposed because you can place her in the middle of the enemy in order to get to the guy you want, and then if you kill it off, the entire enemy is going to shoot at you. But you don't have to do that tactic. Again, you can put her up against troops and just destroy troops with a shredder and then assault them and whatnot and do pretty well. So that's the Callidus. She's pretty cool. The last assassin we have left to talk about is the Vindicare, the sniper, the marksman of the assassins. So until then, take it easy.